Today I want to tell you about my personal journey with NoFap. This might not be the story of a hero or someone who have made it in life, but at least of someone who has found his purpose and is way too deep to give up anymore. I already mentioned that 5 years ago, my mind and body decided that it was too much for them. I was treating myself really badly at the time. I worked a job which was too draining and coping was limited to even more unhealthy habits. I started to develop bodily symptoms which made me go from doctor to doctor. I was scared of being terminally ill every day for months. I always thought to myself that this could not be it, this could not be the end, and that I wanted to turn back time to go about it in a different way to not get to this point. I went to different medical professionals. Some treatments worked for some of the symptoms, but then others would use that open space to put themselves in the spotlight. I went from neurologists to endocrinologists to cardiologists to alternative practitioners, and all could help with some of these. But right from the start, I decided that I wanted to change something myself. I lost trust in the medical system real quick, and it was the first time my health meant anything to me. It started with quitting the consumption of any psychoactive substances. I wanted to be sober all the time because I thought this would be the best way of healing. I used to drink and smoke when going out with friends, which I quit back then. I started to do regular sports, riding my bike every second day for 1.5 hours, and I started to meditate. I didn't know how it worked. I would just lie down, activate a fragrance diffuser, listen to meditative sounds, and would just do nothing for 15 to 30 minutes. Usually, I would just start to fall asleep. It took me some years to figure it out. But at that time, I stumbled upon semen retention as a spiritual way of improving yourself. This was 4.5 years ago. I had no NoFap community, no daily videos, not even the NNN challenge to follow. It was just me trying to retain my semen. I actually used to edge at that time to deal with the urges. I failed. A lot. Then, more or less out of nowhere, I did somehow manage to go for 30 days. I felt some benefits. I had the feeling of having a better presence and that people would notice me more, but nothing compared to what I would experience 1.5 years later. I challenged myself back then to just quit for 30 days and usually did go back to adult films etc. on day 31. I managed to do it 2 more times in my normal environment, and once when I was backpacking through Thailand during COVID lockdown, which was an amazing adventure I certainly will tell you about someday. But I never managed to find a purpose back then. I started to study psychology more or less just to do something with my life and out of pure interest. I moved out to the big city, which brought its own set of problems, which caused me to start therapy soon after, and I was finally able to deal with all those symptoms which I had experienced since 2 years at this point. I accepted the fact that I really did mess up something back then, but I was able to find a way of dealing with it now so that it does not affect my everyday life anymore. November came and I was nowhere near dedicated to any self-improvement at that point. But just out of the moment, I decided that I wanted to challenge myself again, just to prove that I could do it. It would certainly not harm me to try it again, so I went on a journey which would change my life. It was the time when this challenge really got traction on YouTube. There were dozens of motivational videos and NNN slander videos, which would turn out to be just triggers later on. I stuck with the videos of mineral wisdom, and it made me feel like having a bigger responsibility to it than just proving something to myself. I wanted to show the world and this community that I will be able to make it through it. He made me aware of all those little things which would make the difference. Finding purpose, habits, quitting triggers, and overall that this is much more than just not watching adult films. I started going to the gym again. Soon after, I started eating vegan and dropped weight quickly. I took my studies seriously and I started to philosophize a lot with my friends. This philosophizing about society, life, culture, mental health and spirituality, to name a few, plus my studies shaped the idea that I wanted to help people and thus humanity to a more healthy way of living. Things started to align. Things which will make up my personality, activities and hobbies I had back in my youth, and ideas which kept me awake during my childhood, all of a sudden formed this path which I was on all the time. I relapsed after 117 days. I didn't really count days anymore, but I knew that I started in November and could just do a quick calculation. I actively decided to relapse and I was fine with it. Sadly, this led to me getting back into adult films later on, but it never brought me off my path. I still walk this path till this day, and this channel is one huge part of my goal, right next to me becoming a psychotherapist. How I would achieve my goal in the end doesn't really matter. The only thing I know is that I will achieve it in some way. I was never able to beat the 170-day streak until now. I managed to go for another 90 plus days once, and 30 days multiple times. But I also find myself struggling from time to time to even make it to more than 14 days. What I want you to take from this is that there's more than just a streak. Purpose is what will give us hope, and hope is what will keep us going, no matter what happens. I also learned that even though there can be mistakes which have a lasting impact on one's life, you can always recover to a happy and satisfying state again. Every challenge destiny brings before you will only make you stronger, and one day you won't struggle anymore. I too have a long way ahead of me. Are you going to accompany me?